Hello everyone, welcome to today's Knowledge webinar, Landscape Design for All with RhinoLands BIM software. Today, enjoy a complete overview of RhinoLands design tools encompassing drawing, 3D modeling, and project documentation. And of course, with this session, you will experience a live project development. So stay tuned. Today's presenter are Elham Ghabouli. She's a landscape architect and the product manager of Lands Design Software. She's also a PhD in urban and architecture management from the University of Catalonia, and she specialized on BIM workflows in the fields of landscape architecture. And our other presenter, Francesc Salla, is an architect and the product manager of VisulaARQ and Lands Design at Asuni. And Francesc is a specialist in parametric design solution with Grasshopper, so best team you could have at hand. And now let me show you where you can find RhinoLands on the Knowledge catalog. Just search for RhinoLands, and I want to remind you that Knowledge is changing the way designers purchase 3D software, offering more choices, best advice, and faster service. Check us out at knowledge.com. And now I will share Elham's screen so she can get this presentation started. Take it away, Elham.
Yeah, thank you. Well, hello, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon. And thank you, Barbara, for the introduction. I'm going to start the presentation and well, let's see what's RhinoLands indeed. So RhinoLands is a BIM solution for landscape architecture. And I'm going to do the first part of the presentation, which is the overview, and then we will have the second part, which is the live demo. So let's have the first part. Okay. Well, so it's a BIM landscape software. It means that it has tools for technical drawings, then the 3D model, which is linked to 2D. There are tools for automatic listing and quantity takeoffs, list of plants and other materials. And there are several tools for visualization and animation of the project. RhinoLands is a standalone solution, including Rhino 8 at the moment. So it means that you don't need any external program in order to do all your drawing and modeling and documentation stuff. And it has a simplified interface of Rhino, actually. So when you run RhinoLands, you will see this interface that you will see on this screen. So it's much more, let's say, user-friendly for new users and for beginners, as well as for professionals. So the program is used in different fields. First of all, in landscape architecture, also in designing green infrastructure, it is used by civil engineers, in urban planning projects, and also in environmental projects. For example, you can easily model a forest by its terrain and vegetation tools. So let's see its main features. First of all, the program includes an extensive plant database with more than 8,000 plant species. The plant database includes also the botanical information of plant species, and there are several filters that help us to select the adequate plant based on climate type, soil type, plant type, and the different parameters like water need, for example. And as you see, also there are different blocks for the same plant species that are going to be used in different displays and different views of the project. So as you see, there are different display modes. We can see that we can switch between detailed to conceptual or to elevation or to realistic modes. In realistic mode, there is a slider that helps us to have the seasonal change of our landscape. So in this way, we can shift and see how would be the seasonal change of our project. So in this way, we can compare this seasonal scene and have a better idea of our design. Also, you can switch between 2D and 3D easily by one click. So if you are familiar and you used to work in 2D environment, you can continue working in 2D environment, insert plants, insert other objects, and then by switching to 3D, you will see that your design indeed includes a 3D model, actually. For inserting plants, there are different modes. You can insert them individually, of course, but also you can insert them by paint mode like paint of windows. By moving the mouse on the plot, the program inserts plants randomly. You can convert points to plants, as you see, or convert any kind of blocks like AutoCAD 2D blocks to a 3D realistic plants in land design with a specific tool. You can insert a row of plants by indicating the distance of plants and combination, or a group of plants by indicating the minimum distance, the plant combination, or the arrangement. You can also insert shrubs by indicating the number of units per square meter or per linear meter. In the same way, you can insert ground covers. Inside of our plant database, there is a plant editor that helps us to edit the appearance and the 3D model of an existing plant. For creating terrain, we have powerful tools that help us to generate the terrain by points and lines. Once the terrain is generated, we can do different types of earth moving operation on top of this terrain, apply different types of grading, and the program will calculate the volume and area of earth moving operation. You can create a terrain by DEM files or import the terrain from the map just by indicating the location on the map. So in this way, we can easily and in a fast way compare different operations on the same terrain. We can run the same operation in different alternatives and compare the result of earth moving operation of alternatives, and finally have a better decision about our project. There are dynamic documentation tools that help us to have all documentation that we need at the end of the day. So we can add the label and tag plants by their name and their quantity, for example. We can add the image of plants by using a specific tool of the program. So in continue, we can also produce different sections, producing dimensions, adding the labels, scale bar, or even the elevation mark of the project. So there are different tools, as you can see here, maybe, and finally we produce different sections and plans of the same project. We have parametric hardscape tools that help us to have the parametric design and parametric objects like hardscape tools like ramps, stairs. We have parametric walls and curbs in the program. And in this way, we produce our project, but at any moment we can modify its parameters. There are irrigation tools that help us to design our irrigation system by using 2D tool. So in this way, we insert the sprinklers and we draw the pipe system somehow automatically, and then the program will list the quantity of material that is used. For visualization, we have different tools. We have walk mode that we can walk through the project. We have sun and shadow tool that you see here. So by using sun panel, by moving the slider, you can see that how would be the shadow movement in your project in different periods of the day and in different periods of the year as well. So this is quite unique. And also there are different render possibilities, and also there's an image filter inside the program. This is the rendering by using the internal Rhino render. So without using any external rendering engine, we can achieve somehow this kind of realistic images. But also the program is compatible with the best render engines in the market. So we have the result by using Enscape, Twinmotion, V-Ray, and Lumion. The animation that you see here is made by a project that is modeled in RhinoLands, and then the animation is made by using Enscape. So as you see, all the plants that you see here are native plants of RhinoLands, and in this way we can make our bring our project into life. Well, another feature is that we have parametric design by using Grasshopper. So we apply algorithms or either for creating a geometry, like what you see in this image, or we can apply algorithms, in our case, we apply Grasshopper to link external data to our BIM geometry and do different types of analysis. So what you see here are Grasshopper components of RhinoLands. So we can link algorithms to our plants, to our terrain, or our even irrigation objects, and then develop our design in an automatic way. Let's see an example, just a simple example. We are going to insert a bunch of plants with different size, and then we will have some plant edging for each plant with the same diameter of the plant. So there's a specific definition for that. By applying that definition, we reach and we get all at 1 second. So by moving the plants, you see that the edging is moving as well. So everything is linked with the plant. And well, it's just a simple example, but you can imagine that we have unlimited possibilities of applying parametric design and applying Grasshopper in our design. Another use of Grasshopper is in this one, in environmental analysis. So we link environmental data through Grasshopper to our model, and we do different types of analysis. So as the results, we have published these workflows. We can calculate the CO2, how much carbon will get sequestrated by plants, the cooling effect of plants on the floor, the shadow analysis, and the solar radiation, how much solar radiation will get absorbed by plants. So this is the example of the CO2 calculation. On the left side, you see the model, and on the right side, you see the calculator. By opening that definition in Grasshopper, you see that you can move the slider, indicate the age of plants, and also you can indicate the period of calculation. So for example, we want to calculate how much carbon will get sequestrated by this project in 10 years or in 20 years. So the calculator gives us the final result. Let's see, it's BIM workflow. We have IFC support, so you can export or import your model into IFC or import from IFC. We have Rhino inside Revit workflow that you saw in this video. So I'm going to play it again. So you can see that this is the model in RhinoLands, and then in Revit, we can call all the objects of RhinoLands into Revit, and Revit will recognize them as BIM objects. So let's see how would be the design process by using RhinoLands. We can model a terrain by using topographic contours and elevating them. Or if we don't have contours, we can import terrain by looking the location on the map. The program produces the 3D terrain. Once the terrain is imported or generated, we can do different types of operation, like cut and fills that you see here, create a path on terrain, or create a boundary. Once the terrain is finished, we continue by civil work. So we can add walls, fences, or stairs to the project. Everything is parametric, so you can have a full control on your objects, on their size and distancing. Well, in continue, we can add blocks using our block library of the program, or inserting blocks from any other supported format like SketchUp, for example, or 2D Max blocks. So, well, you will finally have the list of blocks as well. We continue by inserting plants to the project. As you see, you can easily insert them from the plant database and change its size or its appearance, or even the arrangement of group of plants. Then you can shift into 2D, switch to 2D, add labels, and produce your documentations. For example, add the image of plants. And produce different lists of plants and material zones, furniture, and so on. When you switch to 3D, you can, in realistic mode, you can change the season, so you can see the seasonal change of your project as well. And finally, you render the project. Okay, well, so let's see how is the workflow with the program. We have the, if you have any CAD drawing, you can open it in RhinoLands, because Rhino reads more than 55 formats. So you can open your drawing for sure in RhinoLands. And if you have also some kind of models like SketchUp models, you can also open them in RhinoLands. Indeed, you don't need any external program. So you can start your drawing inside the program. But if you have any kind of drawing, you can also import them. Anyway, in continue, well, you can develop your modeling and design. And then for visualization, you can shot or render, which is compatible like Enscape, V-Ray, or Twinmotion. You can use the virtual reality headsets to see how would be the project in reality, and use any 3D printer to have a 3D print of your project. You can export your documents to Excel or PDF, so any kind of lists that are going to produce in the program finally can be exported to Excel and produce different layouts. You can have collaboration with other programs like SketchUp, Revit, 3D Max, so you can import or export model to these programs. And you can have also the access to geographic tools. So you can import, for example, your GIS files or DEM files or point clouds into the program. And the program will produce a 3D terrain based on, for example, point clouds. So the whole project can be done by using RhinoLands. As you see here, we can produce different sections, different views of the project, produce different types of plans and layouts of the same project, and also have a 3D realistic model and renderings. So this is a real-world application of RhinoLands. It's a new infrastructure in Madrid, and all this documentation is made by using the program. So just in summary, we have a 60-day free trial. The licenses are two types, the permanent license, and also there is a subscription option for those who are going to use for temporary use. We will have free technical support. You will have free technical support from our team, and there are educational and lab licenses at a very reduced price. You can also take a look at our project gallery and see how people are using the program. Up to now, is there any questions?
Questions so far?
Okay.
No questions. Yeah. Should
So
we
continue
yeah.
with the second part?
Okay, so I will pass the screen to Francesc.
All right. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to show some of the features that we have seen in this presentation with this new interface of RhinoLands. Those of you that know Rhino will find this interface quite familiar because, as Elham has mentioned, it's a simplified interface, a user interface with the necessary commands to develop any landscape project. Those of you that have never seen Rhino, well, you can discover easily all the tools necessary to develop a project from 2D drawing tools. So if you are familiar also with 2D CAD tools like AutoCAD, you will find here all the necessary tools to draw in 2D. Here you will find all the tools to model in 3D, from working with primitives, surfaces, and all the commands to edit these surfaces and 3D objects. And then we can find all the necessary tools to generate terrains, either if we import them from the earth or from them or GIS files, or if we create them from points and curves and all the tools to do operations with them. Then we will find all the tools related to vegetation and the different ways we can insert these vegetal elements, and also the civil work objects. We can find some irrigation tools here, documentation tools for listing all the elements that we have in the project, or if we want to add dimensions and other text in the model. Okay. Also, we have here the option to work from page layouts, just like in AutoCAD, for example, and prepare our 2D drawings. Okay. Here we can find some visualization tools. Okay. Different options to arrange our viewports or to set different views from our each one of the viewports. Okay. Work with different display modes or shutter render. And finally, some selection tools that let us select objects by type. Okay. If we take a look at the other toolbars here, we can find some quick access to zoom options, isolate or selection options. And if we take a look at the panel on the right side, we can find here the tools to, for example, see the different layers of our project, or we can switch to the properties panel to see the features of the objects that we select. Or here we will find the edit panel for all the objects and all the parametric features that we will see on the objects that we select. Okay, we'll see some of these features in a moment. In a usual situation, we may want to start from a DWG file that we got from a client or we have developed, and so I'm gonna just open it to see how it works. So it's as simple as select open, select a DWG file, and click open. We need to define here the import options. We can just select the default. And here you can see all the 2D drawings that come in this DWG file. If we explore here the layers, we can see that some objects are stored into these different layers. Okay, and if we select these objects, we'll see control points. We have this gumball to move the elements. So it's very easy to edit these objects, to navigate through the viewports. Just double click to expand it and work from a single viewport. And here on the left side, we can find transform commands such as copy, move, rotate, or scale, and other commands to work with the object that we select. But let's jump to this project, but a little bit more developed. Okay, so I'm gonna show it a little bit more advanced, so we can work with plans, terrains, and other stuff. Okay, but first of all, let's explore here the edit panel, because this is a very useful dialog from where we will be able to switch from the different display modes that the elements of RhinoLands offer. Okay, right now we're seeing the model in 3D and the plans are in realistic display mode, but just notice that from here we can switch from the elevations to conceptual, detailed, and realistic again. Okay, also if we are working from the 4 viewports, we can let this button enabled, so all these changes will apply on the 4 viewports. For example, we can switch also to the 2D representation, so all the viewports will switch in 2D, but we can also assign these display modes individually by viewport. So if we click on this button, now we will be able to set, for example, from the left view, the elevations. From the top viewport, we want to work in 2D, so we'll select this 2D representation, and from the perspective view, we'll work in this realistic mode. Okay. By the way, now we're seeing the plans in realistic display mode, and this is a fine level of detail that is kind of suitable for working and seeing a nice view of the project. But these plans will be replaced by a more accurate and more realistic plans when we shot the render. Okay, and also these plans offer different levels of detail even in this viewport. So if we select the plans from this list, okay, we can see here the different display modes that these plans offer, from the conceptual, the detailed, and the realistic, or the 2D crown. So we can click on this button to change the 2D crown into by another one that we have in the library. So we can select any of these blocks for the 2D representation of this plan. Okay, and if you have your own representation, you can add it to this folder as a 3DM file, and it will be available for you to represent these plant species in 2D. Okay, these changes affect only the document, but it can be also applied to the plant database. Now let's insert the plant. Okay, so I'm gonna, for example, insert the plant in that area. So I'm gonna run the plant command. So here in this dialog, we can see the list of all the species that we have already selected. Okay, there are a few of them, but we can just click on the browse button to search for another one. So we can just type here the species that we want to insert. Okay, and the plant database will show you the number of species that match with this criteria. So we can just click on these options to find one specific species that match this criteria, or clear this to start from scratch. And also this plant database shows plants grouped in different lists. So we are seeing the plants that come with render. That means that some plant species have a specific realistic representation developed for that species, but not others, not all of them have. But we can see plants that are suitable for vertical gardens, or we can just see plants that have been added as favorites. So we can click on this here to make your own favorite list of plants, or just show them all. Okay, and we'll see here all the amount of species that are available. Also, we are able here to duplicate an existing species. We could click on this button to copy it and generate a new species that maybe is missing in the plant database based on the copy of an existing one. Or we can maybe click on this button to add a new species from scratch. So we will fill here all this template, okay, with all the morphology and characteristics. Or here we would select also 2D crown, a 3D block for the conceptual shape, another for the detailed shape. Or here we could assign also one of the realistic files that are available for all the plant species. You would search here for the most appropriate one, or you can also develop new plant species, new realistic representation for plant species using a plant editor, which is a plugin that is included into the product. Okay, so I'm gonna cancel by now. Just select this lemon tree. And okay, I already inserted it, but I'm gonna say yes. And then we define here the insert options, such as the proximate height or the random natural variation. That means that if we insert several units, all of them will have slight differences in rotation and size, and will give us the feeling that they are one different to another. Click OK, and we just need to insert that plant in the model. Okay, or we can insert as many units as we want. Here from the right side, we can edit in situ the dimensions of these plants, the properties of these plants. Okay, but we can do it afterwards. So when we end the insertion of these plants, we can select any of them, and from the edit panel, we will be able to edit the plant, change another species, okay, and do anything that we could do at when we inserted it. Let's move on. Let's insert a terrain here. So this is a common situation where we may have 2D curves that were existing in the DWG file, or we got from a new DWG file. The terrains in RhinoLands are created from points and curves, but they need to be in their proper elevation. That means that if, like in this case, they are all on the same plane, we'll need to elevate them first. Okay, I'm gonna work in different display mode, for example, the wireframe. And from the terrain tab, I'm gonna use this command, elevate curves, that will show this dialog. And we basically need to draw a line that intersects with all the curves that we want to elevate. Okay, so we need to define an increment, for example, 1 meter. And when we click on the apply button, you'll notice that these curves are elevated according to this increment. Okay, we close this dialog and we'll see that now we have the curves in the proper elevation, considering that these curves were representing contour lines every 1 meter. Okay, but just consider that the curves or points used for creating terrains can have any 3D, can be in any position in the 3D modeling space. For example, we can select this control point and raise it, okay, and still create a terrain with this curve. Okay, so let's do it. I'm gonna run the terrain command, select all these curves, okay, it may be also points, okay, and hit enter. Right, so we have here the insert option, so we need to define a cell size for the resulting terrain. The smaller this cell size is, the more accurate it will be with the input data geometry that are those curves that we have just selected. And we have the option here to enable a base or not and define the height of the base. And also here we can assign a material by default. There is a library of materials available that we can select. But of course, if you have any other texture or material, it's up to you to select your own one. And here under the contour lines, we can define the contour interval. Okay, this is calculated automatically, but we can define any other value. All right, let's say OK. So we can see the terrain created. All right, let's switch back to the rendered mode, see how this looks like in rendered. And well, now if we select the terrain, we can see that it has integrated some of the control points, well, actually all the control points of the curves that was used to generate it. For example, we can select this control point from that curve and maybe play with it to change the topography of this terrain, right? Okay, and well, if we select the terrain, if we go to the input data tab, we can see here the list of all the geometry, all the curves, including the control points that were used to generate it. So we can select any of these contour lines and remove it, so the terrain will be regenerated. Okay. And now, as we insert new operations, we'll see how they are displayed in this input data tab, and let us modify these operations. Okay. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, since I see that this area is overlapping with an existing surface or zone that I had underneath, so I'm just going to trim the terrain from an existing curve. I'm going to switch back to wireframe a second, because here I have a boundary curve that was previously created, but I'm going to use it to trim the terrain and define the new boundary for the terrain. So here I've got a command that will let me do that. So I need to select terrain. Just notice that here from the command line, whenever you run a command, you just need to follow the instructions indicated here. So it's pretty user-friendly to run any command with any previous experience. Okay, we just need to just follow the steps. So I'm gonna pick the terrain, hit enter. Now it asks me to pick a closed curve. So I'm gonna select this curve, and we are done. Let's see this back in render display mode, how this looks like. Okay. Now if we activate the 2D representation of the model, the terrain is displayed with control curves every 50 half meter. Okay. And here I have an overlapping of the original curves, so they were stored in layers, in a specific layer. So I'm gonna hide that layer. I think they were in that topography layer. There we go. And I'm gonna show this back in 3D. And I mean, the terrain has an option here. If we select it, and we go to the general tab to show the both 2D and 3D representation. So it's quite kind of nice to see also the contour lines overlapping the 3D geometry. Okay. Now let's add some operation in this terrain. For example, we can add a cut and fill operation. I'm going to enable here some curves that I have for that purpose. Maybe I'm gonna see. I mean, I'm always changing the display mode from here, but I remind you that you can do it easily from here if it's easier for you. Okay, so okay, I think I've got that curve over here. Yeah, so I'm gonna create a cut and fill based on this rectangle. So I'm gonna move this a little bit up. So I want that this curve intersects a little bit with the terrain. Okay, so when we when we add a cut and fill, it cuts some part of the existing terrain, but also adds some volume in order to flatten the terrain on that curve. So we go to terrain tab, and now I'm going to use this cut and fill command. So we'll pick the terrain, enter. I need to define a slope within the interval of 0 to 90 degrees, basically how the terrain will meet with this boundary, okay, the slope around this boundary, let's say 45 degrees. And finally, I select this closed curve. Okay, hit enter, and we're done with this cut and fill. Now, if we select the terrain, we have here this extension arrow, this double arrow that lets us change the elevation of this cut and fill. Or we can just get at some of the grip points, and just move it to any other position to change the boundary of this cut and fill. Okay. All right. Maybe we can also add a path here. We have here a curve that now it's on the 0 elevation. So I'm gonna elevate it first to the terrain. So there is an option at the edit panel to adjust a curve to the existing terrain. So we will select it, go to adjust, and select 2 terrains. And now that curve is approximately on the right position, so we can add a path on that terrain based on this curve. If you want to have this path on a specific slope, you need to elevate it first with the desired inclination, and then apply the path command on it afterwards. Okay. But again, the position of this curve and their control points will determine, the slope of this path on the terrain. So let's do it. Let's run the path command here. I'm going to select the terrain. Now select the width, let's say 3 meters in this case, and pick an angle for the slope within the interval. In this case, we'll say 30 degrees. So finally, just need to select that path axis, and the path is added. All right. And again, if we select now this terrain, the control points of the path axis have been integrated into terrain, so we can change that endpoint to another elevation or to another position. Okay. All these operations that we are doing can be listed. Okay, can be listed and will be linked with the terrain. So if we go to the documentation tools, we have here the option to add a terrain list. So we just select an insert point, and this will list the amount of land that has been necessary for the fields and the paths of these operations on the terrain. Okay. And again, if we select the terrain and we go to the input data, we can select, for example, the path and change the width to, let's say, 4 meters. So the path will be recalculated, but also the values for the fill volume and dig volume for that path operation. Okay, so this is a list that is connected live with the 3D model. And also for other kind of lists. So we insert here a plant list. We can see here all the species in our project. Okay, there are some other features that we can add to this list. For example, if we select it, we can go here to the list parameters and maybe add the density. If we are using ground covers, for example, we can add the initials. Okay, we can even add custom parameters. All right. So you can customize all these lists as you wish, or finally you can export it if you like. Okay, there are some other parameters here to edit the appearance of this list. So I let you play with them and discover them. And but the idea is that this list is connected with the 3D model. For example, let's insert here a new forest. Okay, I'm gonna work from the top viewport, and I'm gonna run the forest command. In this case, I'm gonna select an existing species, for example, the jacarandas, or maybe the Abies alba. Okay, again, I select the initial height, I will make sure I have the natural variation option, so the plants look a little bit different. And from the forest tab, I'm gonna select the settings of this forest. So let's say that I want 60 units and a minimum distance between units of 3 meters. Okay, or we could distribute them in a regular array according to different parameters. But let's try this option first. And now we have different options to create this forest. So we can either pick an existing curve, or we can draw it on the fly, picking any of these options. So I'm going to select the polyline option and start drawing the boundary of that forest. Okay, you don't need to close this boundary. If you do right click, it's going to close it automatically. And then and now we can select this forest. We can select it and redistribute it. Okay, we have here all the options. We can maybe combine different elements, so have 2 different species in our forest, and from that part of the edit panel we can select one and change maybe the species. Okay, so we're combining a species in our forest, so we can edit this forest at any time. Okay, and if we see that from the 3D, you will see that all the plants have been already projected on top of the terrain automatically. Okay. Also, there is an interesting option to clear plants from a specific area. So if we select these plants, here we go to forest and add hole. So if we select that rectangle, we will ensure that no plant is located within this area, no matter which is the distribution of this forest. So it will keep clear the plants from that rectangle. Okay. And of course, now we can see that the plant list has updated. So we have many new units with for the Ibis alba and many new ones for the jacarandas. Okay. Okay, let's see some of the civil work tools. I would like to show one of the new commands that we have included in this new version of the program, which is the ramp object. It's a very useful command that can be created from splines, from run through different flights. I'm going to draw it from the top viewport, and I'm going to create a ramp in that part. So you run the ramp command. You have here the insert options, for example, which is the hard start height. Okay, and if we go to the flight tab, we can define the height of the ramp. Okay, this is defined by a number, or can be also defined by a percentage, okay, of the slope, or a proportion between the rise and the run. In this case, I'm going to select height. I'm going to define this 40 meters is fine, and click OK. So I'm going to draw it as a polyline in this case, and I'm going to snap here. I mean, I need to make sure that I have the justification to the left. Okay, and the width will be maybe 1 meter only, and now we can insert that ramp in here. All right, so let's go to the perspective, see how this ramp looks like. Okay, and we can select it now and well, change the width, maybe make it a bit wider. Okay, now we can select these stairs, also change its width. So all the objects we have here are parametric, so we can edit them easily. Okay, and this ramp from the 2D is displayed with a specific well, annotation indicating the slope. Okay. Maybe we can insert also some elements here. Since we have this curve for the path, we can insert a row of elements. So I can show you how this command works. Basically, it distributes objects along a curve, and these objects can be selected from the block library that RhinoLands provides. So we have here a list of well, 3D blocks from lighting, fountains, stones. Okay, you can find many blocks. Take into account that you can select any block that you find on the web, as long as it's supported by RhinoLands. So this includes blocks available for SketchUp, for 3D Studio Max. Well, of course, Rhino blocks. So you have the option here to include the blocks that you find on the web into your project, okay, and make it work with these options. But I'm going to select maybe one of these lighting elements, maybe this one, and well, you just define here the features of that element from the row. So I'm going to set the separation to maybe 8 meters, for example. I wanted to define some distance to the axis because I don't want the lights to be placed exactly on the middle of the path. So I'm going to define a distance of 2 meters and then click OK, select that curve. And we can see here the row of elements. Okay, so we can just select them and change the properties, maybe change the distance to axis to a bigger value, okay, or make the separation a little bit more. Okay, let's move on. Regarding the documentation tools, some of the first things that you may want to do in a project is defining the areas, right? When we are working on the top viewport and we're using this 2D representation of the objects, maybe it's nice to insert the zones of the project so we have an idea of how the areas in our project will be distributed. In this document, we have already created a few zones, such as this one or this other one, but we can insert new ones. So I'm going to do it on that part of the project. Go to the documentation toolbar, select this zonify command, and basically we'll need to pick a boundary curve or pick inside an inner point inside a region that will be detected by RhinoLands to define a new zone. Okay, the zones are generated as 2D hatch pattern, as hatch patterns in 2D, and also as a textured surface in 3D. So here I can select a different texture from the library. So we need to define here an area. Let's call this building, imagining that there is a building in that part, and we'll define here the features of the zone. I'm gonna select a different pattern, okay, and click OK, and finally select the insert point for the label. Okay, and now we can insert a zoning list. So we will see also the new zone that we have generated. If we select this zone, maybe we can display also the icons so we can identify them easily. And maybe we can see some other commands. For example, we have here, of course, all the tools to dimension this project. Okay, but yeah, we can also add labels, plan photos, slopes. For example, we can see the slope of this path on the terrain, just selecting that curve. Okay. So the slope basically will project the start and end points on the terrain and will calculate the slope. Okay. All right. So finally, let's maybe just to finish, show how to create an animation for this project. So I'm gonna enable the animation panel. By default, it's available here in this part of the dialog, but you can always open it from this list of most useful panels. Okay, so we can find the animation panel here, and we can just drag this panel at any part of the interface, but if we drag it next to the other, it will be docked in that part. Okay. I'm gonna enable also a curve that I have in a specific layer, camera path. So And I'm going to use this curve as the camera path to create the animation. So I'm going to move to the animation tab, select this button to assign a curve to the camera path. So I'm going to select this curve. And once it's selected, maybe I can just hide it. Okay, I don't want the curve to appear in my recording. And here I need to define the animation name, if it's working from using frames per second or a total duration of specific seconds. And also you can define here if you want to record it using the Rhino's display, which is the rendered in this case, or if you want to save it to a specific folder. Also, if you choose the Rhino render or V-Ray or any render engine that you are using in this session, well, will be the one that applies here. Okay. If we just use a display, we will be able to see a quick view of that animation. So we just play it and see how this animation looks like. All right. Also, there is an interesting option to navigate through the project, which is the walk mode. You can find it under the visualization tab. You click on the walk mode, and this will put you on the ground. So with the cursor of the mouse, you just need to point to the desired direction, and it will detect the terrain. With the mouse wheel, you can increase the speed of walk, and it's an interesting option to navigate through the project interactively. All right. And well, also if you want to show some, present the project, the plans of the project, we can work from the page layout. Okay, here we got already a few details. Okay, details are the viewports to the model space. I mean, if we click inside here, excuse me, this is just a curve. So we can add, I guess this is, yeah, this is a detail. So this is actually a viewport to our model. Okay, so we can have one detail for the top viewport. Here I can go to the edit panel and show this view in 2D. Okay, maybe I'm gonna show the wireframe inside this view. While in this other detail, I'm showing the 3D view. Maybe in this detail also can show yeah, an elevation or a section of that view, or I can select the elevations. Okay, and maybe we can insert here another detail to see maybe all the list. Okay, so we go to the documentation. I will add a new detail. And then I just need to double click inside it and just zoom in one of these planting lists, for example, to display this list in that layout. Okay, of course, here we can add many other details such as title blocks, text, images, okay, for defining the details of the project, and we will have the project ready to be presented. Okay, so that's it, an overview of RhinoLands. So I hope you have enjoyed. I will be very happy to help you with any questions or doubts you may have. So feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, Francesc. There is a question, and the question is, what if I already have Rhino? Do I bypass RhinoLands and get Lands Design, or do I need to get this package?
You know, when you have Rhino, you can just install Lands Design, and you will be able to run this new version of Lands Design into this new interface, you know, what we call the RhinoLands interface, or the user can run just Rhino as it used to be, with Lands Design as a plugin. Okay, so
perfect.
Having the new version, you have two options: the new interface,
perfect. That's great.
the regular one.
That's great. And by the way, great interface. I think everybody will like that simplicity and great. So I don't see any other question. Let me show everybody again where they can find RhinoLands on our catalog. Just go to noveg.com, search for RhinoLands. This page will appear. You see pricing, and we also have the subscription solution. So try it for a little bit, and if you love it, then you can buy the permanent license. But it's great that you have the options. That's something really new that Asuni is able to offer. I thank you to both of you. This is very exciting. Very, very exciting. And I want to remind everybody that Noveng is changing the way designers purchase 3D software. We have more choices. We have both RhinoLands, Land Design, Rhino, all the possible software combination you can need. So check us out at noveg.com and have a great rest of the day, everybody. Thank you so much and bye again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.